Fantastic. Okay. So a big hi and a warm welcome to everybody on the call here, parents and students. As you know that we are in this webinar series this week. And all our high school students, I think it's time for our high school students also to slightly understand what the undergrad landscape finally entails, right? What is it that we are working towards when we are working with you in this mentorship program? We are working with you week on week, month on month to edit that profile. But what is the end goal out there, right? And that is what we're going to be discussing this week, attacking every country, so to say. Today I am starting with US. And the reason we're starting with US, because honestly, US is the mother of all applications. The minute you are preparing your profile or you're telling yourself, I'm working towards the US, you are taking care of every other country under that sort of landscape. So the US requires many components. They're all moving parts. And the number of components that the US requires, honestly, takes care of whether it's a UK, whether it's a Canada, whether it's a Asia, whether it's Europe, everything in the future. So like I always tell families, when you're in high school, you do not need to know your end country. You do not need to know your end career, end goal. All you need to know is create a really strong foundation so that when you come to grade 11, when you're 10 months away from that application, you've taken care of most of the components, because you've always told yourself, I'm working towards the US, and the entire, globe is open. The entire world is your oyster. So with that, a quick introduction to myself. I'm Sheetal Vora. I'm the Associate Director of the Undergrad Services at the Red Pen. I've been in the education space for over a decade, been with the company close to 8 years, in my 8th year now. An education consultant and college consultant from UCLA. And I think more than that, been through this as a parent myself. My son just graduated, from a liberal arts college in the US. So been there, done that, understood and faced that entire process of anxiety, FOMO, not done enough, cost of investment, so on and so forth. So even towards the end, if you all have any questions as a parent, Shirish, I know, as a parent, you may have questions. Feel free to kind of go for it. I will be sharing screen now, so I will not be able to see you all. So if you all have any questions, do feel free to, update in the chat. Sorry, it's Zoom. I'll be able to see you all. But do, share your questions in the chat. We have the PCA experts out here who will also keep answering you guys. Or at the end of the session, I'm happy to kind of answer all your questions. And do stay on till the end, because we've got a really interesting video where students like yourselves who've just graduated from college, they have some 2 bits of advice to share. And that advice, I think, will be stronger than my advice or the PCA team or your parents. Yeah, super. So I'm going to get started. Let me just share screen. Okay, you all can see my screen, just a thumbs up. Right? Everybody, screen. Awesome, super. So let's get started. The undergrad US application process overview. I'm just going to minimize. Okay. So the US, obviously, huge geography. Just for families who may be slightly aware of the US or so, who are slightly new, let's understand mainly where the most sort of sought after colleges, or colleges where we are generally in the top 100, where we see a lot.
Sheetal, sorry to interrupt you, but there is some kids' noise in the background. If everybody could mute themselves, it would be nice, because it's disturbing with what you're saying.
Oh, okay.
Sorry for this. Yeah.
Let me know when to continue. All good?
Yeah, go ahead, Sheetal.
Okay, super. So these are the most popular cities, like you see on the screen, where most of the colleges are. Not only colleges are highly selective, sought after, but colleges. Sorry. Can we request everybody to mute themselves, please? Somebody's talking. I can't see who, but
please mute yourself if you're not asking a question. Sheetal, I think everyone's muted now.
Okay, fantastic. So these are the popular cities. And of course, colleges where we will have enough of international population, even if you're looking for that Indian population. So for students who are, obviously US may be down the line for you all, but important to know that whether it's Seattle, California, San Francisco, LA, Atlanta, Miami, Washington, DC, Philadelphia, New York, Boston, most of the cluster of colleges that you may be seeking, whether it's for, business or econ or theater or arts or, computer science, these are going to be the sort of locations that you will be considering. Yes, when we work with you closer to date, we go finer and, deeper into that with regards to whether you're seeking an urban experience, or you want, climate is important, or somewhere family is important. But overall, this is, the visual about where the colleges are located. Okay. Now, like I always like to start that when you are looking at US, and of course, it requires a couple of years of planning, but what is it that we have to work backwards towards? What is it? I would like, all of your students and parents out here, keep yourself for the next 5 minutes, in the admissions chair, and, wear your admissions hat and admission officer's hat. Let's keep in mind, let's imagine that you all are admission officers, say for NYU, New York University, one of the most popular universities, one of the most sought after universities. Parth, I know your brother's starting his journey out there very soon. But if you are an admissions officer and you are receiving thousands of applications, again, taking NYU as an example, that receives over 120,000 applications this cycle, how are you going to decide who do I put in that admit pile, denied pile, deferred pile? You are receiving applicants and applications from across the globe, from, of course, US itself, from the state of New Jersey, New York, and besides the US, all across, right? So there have to be certain parameters that help you identify who do I want in my this student batch for this year, who do I want to decline. And these are the main 3 buckets that you as an admissions rep will be trained on evaluating when you receive those thousands of applications. And the buckets that you see on the screen are data, voice, and talent. Again, anybody want to chime in? What does data imply to them? Go unmute yourself and go ahead. Let me know what you think it is. Okay, I'm going to take is somebody speaking? No. Okay, fine. So I think I'll go forward. So data basically means your academic reflection. Every university wants to do a service. They want you to thrive. They don't want you to sort of tank or struggle with maintaining your GPA, which may trigger a transition, or, which may trigger you wanting to move and transfer to another university, because that affects their retention, that affects their attrition, that brings down their rankings. So data, which are your grades, the subjects within the curricula that you've selected, your overall grades, your SAT, ACT scores as you go forward, your academic sort of awards, achievements, everything that tells a university, yes, I know this is my student's potential. I know this is the rigor that's offered by my university. I know this student will thrive. Or you know what, I think the student will struggle. I don't want to do a disservice. I rather have him go to another place. So that is the reason data is always going to be the backbone to your application. Your voice and talent will supplement it, but it will not substitute it. And this doesn't hold true only for US. This is for all countries across the globe. Data is your backbone. You have to ensure that you're really working on those grades. You have to ensure that you're showing a slightly upward trajectory. I know very often students, sort of feel that, okay, I kind of tanked in my grade 9 term 2, or, when I just moved to the grade 10, this subject I've not done well, or when I've just transitioned to the IB or, grade 11, I'm not doing so well. Do not panic. It's absolutely fine. Admission officers understand that you all are basically all of 14 to 16 year, students juggling new subjects, new challenges, curriculars. They're happy to see a dip. That's totally fine, as long as you're showing an upward trajectory there. Number 1, that's very important. Number 2, very important to understand how are they going to analyze and evaluate that data. Like I know there are students out here studying. Sorry, someone again mute themselves. So I know there is a student, suppose say out here, who is from Bombay International School, and there's another student out here who is from the International School Bangalore. So probably both are IB kids. Are both those IB kids going to be compared if you all are all applying to NYU? How are you all going to be compared? Any responses here? Okay, again, silence.
Ma'am, is it maybe, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
if I think the student who has appeared for any extra competitions or Olympiads or SATs, probably they would be considered a little more higher than the ones who haven't appeared for these?
No, no. And that's a great question. Thank you for asking, but I'll help clarify that also. Basically, if there are two kids that I just said, TISB, that's the International School Bangalore and Bombay International, a student is evaluated with reference or in context to the school that they're applying from. So a BIS kid will be compared to the other BIS kids academically. A TISB kid will be compared to the other TISB kids. You are not compared to kids from other sort of, regions. You are first evaluated from within the pool that you are applying from, and that is very important to know. Now, coming to your second question, the student who asked that, yes, the more the metrics you give them, the stronger the foot through the door. So if you give them an SAT or a strong SAT score, I'm not just talking about anything, a strong SAT or an ACT score that mirrors your school grades. Again, colleges have gone test optional. They've not gone test blind. I'll go into details about that later. But the more you give them in terms of knowing your academic potential, the better or the stronger that foot through the door. And US, follows what is known as a holistic evaluation. Holistic meaning they want to know that student in the 360-degree realm, data, voice, and talent. They want to know everything that you're bringing to my campus. Within that, data is going to be the strongest. But your voice and talent is also going to help, go further in that sort of foot through that door. And when I say voice and talent, I also mean show us things that lie within your field of interest. Show us extracurriculars and co-curriculars. Because as an NYU admissions, when I am trying to build my class of, say, 14,000 students, but I have to pick those 14,000, say, from 120,000, I also know what is the class that I'm building. I want to see that there are some, there is a class that I want to make a well-rounded class. A class which has strong math students, a class which has students interested in IR and pol sci, a class which will probably have biologists or pharmacists by the time I have my graduating class. So I also want to know within what area does my students' interest lie? And that's why very important that we are working towards creating a profile or crafting that profile aligned with your field of interest and a little bit outside of your interest. So it's called co-curricular and extracurricular. And of course, all of this that you do is going to be considered under talent and is going to be communicated through essays, through your resume, through teachers' recommendations, so on and so forth. Something that does not lie within your realm of control is the box that you see in red, which is other. Where there are certain colleges that consider legacy status, but more and more colleges are now abolishing it, when it comes to legacy status. But certain colleges have institutional priority. For example, Stanford has just received a huge endowment for like a environment and, a building on all about climate. So they'll be, trying to build their climate class. I know Claremont McKenna has received and has started a whole building on bio and, has recruited a whole faculty for bio. So they'll be trying to fill their bio class. Similarly, Stanford loves to recruit, maybe sometimes it's squash players. So it depends on, priorities that a university has. That is information that's not privy to y'all, not even to education consultants like us. That's behind doors. But the point of sharing this is sometimes I know very often students say that, my profile is equally strong. Why did this one get admitted over this? But maybe this one, had a very strong music profile and the school was looking at, building a strong music class. And that's why that person was admitted. So there are going to be factors outside your realm is what I was trying to indicate. Now, this is an actual representation of where is it that everything that you're doing will be shown to admission officers, paper and pen. So this is a Common App form. The Common App form is the most widely used application portal or the form. Over now 1,000 universities on the Common App. They are just increasing more and more every day, where these are all the sections. So besides, I'm not going to go through the regular sections, but what I want you to see is this testing, where you will be sharing all your test scores if you have. Then activities, you can see the bulk of this, the green box, that's where you'll be listing 10 activities, which really pitches you or is a proof of what you've done aligned to your interest. So that's co-curricular and a little bit of extracurricular. But it's time to show depth, not breadth when it's high school. Then, of course, there's writing section, which is again a chunk of the form. And the boxes, the width of the boxes are in direct proportion to the chunk, on that application form. So the writing section, which will include everything with regards to your essays, the Common App essay, the supplement essays. Supplement essays are essays that each university. Sorry, mute yourselves, guys. Then, of course, the courses and grades. What are the actual courses you're doing? These are the college questions, financial aid, supplement essays. So writing is 1, 2, and college supplement questions, college questions. So here, the blue, the purple, and the pink. These are all your essay related things also. Besides that, of course, your activity. So this is just a fantastic visual representation to what is that final goal that I know the PCA team is working with you on. There is an end goal. It's going to be all coming onto pen and paper. It's all going to be shown to admissions, right? Now, you've understood what, of course, the main geography of the US application landscape. But now let's understand what is it that the US actually offers. The US has a very sort of a great, I would say, diversity in the experience that it offers. There are many majors that will be offered across the board, across those 3,000, 4,000 universities. But as you go forward in this journey, it's very important to remember that the undergrad experience offered in that same subject, let's say psychology, by a public university versus a private university versus a liberal arts university is going to be greatly different. And as a student, you all should start reflecting. Of course, this comes in slightly later, 10th, 11th onset of grade 12, that where do I see myself as a good fit? Am I a shy person? Will I want a smaller student body? Am I a hustler who I don't care whether I don't have, one-on-one mentoring? I make things happen for myself. Am I happy to be away from the distraction that, a metro offers? And I really want to be on a campus environment where I foster strong, relations with my peers and my faculty? Or do I need that lively hustle and bustle of a metro? Because those are, questions you will ask yourselves, because that's what these various universities will be offering you. So broadly, let's divide the US into public, private, and liberal arts. And we've, kind of broken it in 3 columns out here with distinct differences. What is a public university? A public university is basically a university that is, of course, as the name says, it's public. These are mainly the state universities. They are funded by the state. That's why it's a very large student body, 30,000 onwards. So for example, let's take UC Berkeley. I'm sure most of you all are aware of UC Berkeley, UCLA. These are the state colleges of the California state. That means most of the California state students will be flocking to these public universities because they also get in-state tuition, which is a fraction. It's a fraction compared to anybody paying outside of California, the state or the country. The in-state students generally don't pay more than $8,000 to $10,000 annually versus that $65,000 that anybody outside of California. That's why the public universities will have a very large, percentage of the in-state students. The cost of education is somewhere between $40,000 to $60,000. They are huge. They are large campuses. They are generally in urban or semi-urban towns. And because they are 30, 35, that's only the undergrad. There is a really large number of postgrad students also. So because the college itself is around 45,000, it basically makes up the town. Like Berkeley town, which is UC Berkeley, feels like a self-sufficient Berkeley town, which is mainly running through, University of California, Berkeley. Versus, and okay, another important thing is public universities, because they are obviously large, the class sizes are very large. The classes are mainly taught by TAs, which are teaching assistants. And you have smaller sort of office hours and seminars, which are conducted by the actual professors, again, of TA. The class sizes could be upwards of 400, 500 in the initial years. So again, as a student, you have to ask yourself, am I okay being a fish in a large pond? But, yes, I want to go at that place. Public universities are really sought after for, STEM, research, engineering, because they are funded by the state. So there's a lot of, sort of research and infrastructure happening when it comes to engineering and these fields. Now let's move slightly to private. Private universities also great places. And my next slide shows you a few examples. But again, I'll go back to places like NYU, that's New York University, Boston University, Northeastern University. They are slightly smaller compared to public colleges, 7,000 to somewhere around 20,000 or so. Very social in terms of their interaction. Their cost of education is slightly higher because they're not funded by the state. They are mainly running on the fees and, of course, endowments by, alumni. Class size is slightly controlled, and infrastructure and opportunities predominantly available to undergrads over postgrads. Public university, one point I'd like to add that I missed out on, that there is, of course, a lot of research and everything going on, but these opportunities are firstly more sought after or open to grad students. Then it comes to the undergrad. It's not that case in private. And private universities, again, the campus settings could be anywhere. It could be urban, it could be suburban, it could be slightly less suburban, all types across the group, across the country. Now, let me come to liberal arts colleges. Liberal arts colleges, again, very interesting, something very close to my heart, because I personally am very fond of liberal arts. Liberal arts is a style of education, which is also at the public and the private. Liberal arts basically means interdisciplinary education. Liberal arts basically means the first 2 years you come to college, you explore various kinds of college level courses, and then you declare your major. That does not mean liberal arts is only offered at the liberal arts college. Liberal arts is a style of education, and that is the reason US is the mecca. Liberal arts has started in the US, where they offer that flexibility that you do not need to know your major like you would need to know probably in the UK. That does not mean liberal arts is only taught at the liberal arts colleges. Liberal arts colleges basically means very small colleges, very small size. Their student body is under 5,000 students. It means that your, class sizes are small. Your student-teacher ratios are very, very tight. You are not a fish in a big pond. You are a big fish in a small pond. It means that, basically students really know each other well on campus. Faculty know you by name. And it is an institution where you would be happy if you are, you have to ask yourself, am I happy being in really a small college? And they are generally semi-urban and slightly remote as well. They could be easily accessible to main towns, but yes, they are in slightly remote or rural settings, so to say. So that is a little bit on public, private, and liberal arts. Any questions on that before I go forward?
Hi, I'm
So,
Hema.
sorry, somebody's asking something?
Yes, I'm Hema. I'm Daksha's mom. I
Hi,
just
Hema.
wanted to know, when we are applying for these colleges, is it necessary for us to apply in different categories of these universities?
In individual categories?
Yeah. Like if I want to apply, so should I
Yeah.
apply a couple of universities related to public, couple in private, and couple in liberal arts?
It can be
Is
a
that
mix.
permissible?
Absolutely. The Common App or the form does not limit you, that how many public, how many private, how many liberal arts. You have to ask yourself that, okay, if I'm happy to go to a liberal arts, which has a very different experience, am I the same person happy to go to a public also where the experience is so different?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just the cost that I don't mind compromising on. That's why I don't mind going to a liberal arts.
Okay. And what is the duration for us to decide if we take a liberal arts college?
You have time till you actually apply, and I'll show you the timelines of the application.
Okay.
You will be sending your applications from, November onwards of your grade 12. When
Okay.
all of you all on an average will start grade 12 somewhere around July. So by
Mhm.
November is the first round of applications, which is your early applications. That's when you'll send your first round. And by Jan first week of December, and you'll send your second round. So till you submit that button, enter,
Mhm.
you have time to decide which ones you want or you don't want on that college list.
Okay, okay, fine. Thank you.
Most welcome.
I have another question, if
Yeah.
I may. Do US universities consider predicted scores, or do they go by your 11th grade scores only?
No, they do consider predicted scores. And it's a predicted score, which is going to be the most recent reflection of your academic potential. So we always tell students that, when you are in that grade 12, that summer before that grade 12, so basically that June, July, is the time you should be done with most of your application related work, because at July to October is very, very crucial for, your focus on your academics, because your predictives also will be influenced a lot by those as well. So yes, predictives, to answer your question, is very much considered. Your grades from 9 to 12, but even predictives. Yeah, I answered that, hopefully.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
Just a question. What category would Johns Hopkins University fall under?
Private, very competitive. What's your interest? What's your academic interest?
Biomedical engineering.
Fantastic. You are on the right track. You must aspire, you must dream, and you must work on really showcasing, show, don't tell, show colleges what you've done within that field of bio, and especially Johns Hopkins. It's top notch when you talk about anything related to bio, pre-med, med, right? Okay, so yeah, so quick sort of a snapshot. What is a few examples of public universities, few examples of private universities, and liberal arts colleges. All your Ivy Leagues are private universities. Just important for you all also to understand. There are many public universities which are known as public Ivies, and there are smaller liberal arts colleges which are known as liberal arts Ivies. We don't go with Ivy, no Ivy, but just letting you guys know that institutions in the US are just getting very, very competitive.
Ma'am, can I ask
Okay.
a question?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you give can you give a few examples of good liberal art colleges?
Yeah. Claremont McKenna, I'll always start with that because that's my son's alma mater and I personally am very fond. But jokes apart, Wellesley College, Claremont McKenna, Swarthmore, Amherst, Williams, Trinity, these are all the popular, liberal arts colleges. Swarthmore, as you can see out here, these are all small liberal arts colleges. Their student body is under 2,000, 3,000 students as such. They offer you subjects anywhere from bio, chem, computer science, economics, math, chemistry. Even computer science is a liberal arts subject. Basically, liberal arts colleges will not be offering you mainstream vocational streams like business, engineering, law, medicine, because the philosophy behind liberal arts is that they want you to be well-rounded individuals. They want your skills developed in a particular subject that can be applied across a multitude of professional pathways. Do you all want me to explain that? Or you all have a fair understanding of that? Sorry?
Maybe you can please cite an example.
Okay, so basically a math is a math major. A student does not have to study business, to go down the business track. You can be a math major, and a math major opens up so many professional pathways. You can be in the field of actuarial sciences. You can do data science. You can be in investment banking. You can be a financial analyst. You can be a consultant. You can be a business startup. So you understand, a single subject expertise can be applied across the breadth. Similarly, only a bio major, only a comp sci major, only a chemistry major. You don't have to go down the pre-med track, or you don't have to be, you don't have to study medicine to do something in that medicine field, so to say. So you can be a bio major and you can be a researcher. You can be in the academia field. You can be in the pharma field. You can be a biomedical consultant. So that is what I'm trying to say when I say that, a single subject expertise that can be applicable across the field.
Okay, okay. I feel this liberal arts will give them more insight into their areas of interest for the students to pursue.
Absolutely. And
Mm.
honestly, today, that's the reason India also is bringing liberal arts to our country. You talk about Ashoka, Kriya, all these universities. We were going through a brain drain, right? We were losing our kids to the West because the West was offering this interdisciplinary approach, this flexibility approach, and this approach where it actually truly makes you a well-rounded individual that makes you a very strong team player. So liberal arts teaches you a little bit of that interdisciplinary education, parallelly getting you an expert in one field.
Okay, so how is
So-
India placed in this sector of liberal arts?
Very high, but let me just go slightly faster, and I
Okay.
will answer your question towards the end.
Yeah,
Because I just want to cover the US today. We
Sheetal,
have
if
another
you could
day, especially
also
on
cover,
India as well.
Sheetal, if you could just also cover placements. What is the difference between public, private, and liberal arts? How do the regular consulting firms, for instance, hire from liberal arts versus public universities? I think the ultimate goal is eventually placement.
Yeah. Absolutely. So again, placements from public, private, and liberal arts, there is no formula or there is no blanket answer. They all offer great placements. And as I always keep telling students, it's not about the place you go to. It's about what you do with that journey, the courses that you take, the internships that you kind of, bag during those years, the GPA, your grades, just the way you're supposed to prepare in high school for, pitching yourself as a strong student for college. Similarly, your college years, you have to do things to pitch yourself, to your recruiters. And I'll give you examples that, we had a student who was at WPI, Worcester Polytechnic Institute for Computer Science. Worcester Polytechnic Institute, great place, but sometimes for a very strong student may be considered as a safety. But this student was one of the only ones who bagged an internship at Tesla versus other students that year from other universities. So the reason I'm sharing this is all about what you do, the subjects, the way you're crafting your skill versus, just being from a certain place. We have students from public, private, and liberal arts, all of them at really strong places, really, have gone through that drill, are at really sought after companies, so on and so forth, have gone forward with their postgrad. So it's not about if you're from a public university versus a private versus a liberal arts. But yes, one thing I would say that the alumni strength matters. At a public university, you have a very, very strong alumni, but the cohort graduating also is huge, right? So I would say that the alumni can probably be more active sometimes in a private and a smaller liberal arts colleges. You all are getting what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, but Sheetal, I think my question is, do they come on campus? So let's say the Tesla WPI example, did the child have to go out to reach out to Tesla with this, or would Tesla go
No, they
to
all
a
come to
Berkeley
campus.
UCLA,
They all
or
come. They all come to campus. So public, private, or liberal arts, very important to know that they all have very active and dedicated career cells, because their students bagging their internships is one sort of brag point on every college's website. Every college, when they, declare and they announce their results, they first announce 85% of our students were awarded internships before they graduated. 90% of our students were awarded internships within 3 months. So they obviously know for everybody coming to college, the end goal is getting that internship. So they are very actively pursuing and fostering strong, relations with recruiters. They are getting them all on campus. It's a dedicated cell. They are helping you prepare and, become professionals and prepping from that interview to the resume, so on and so forth.
Okay, thank you. Please carry on.
Yeah. So yeah, this is again just an overall cost of education, that I like to share with families when you're considering US, because as I keep saying, US is just getting so expensive. This is the average cost currently. It goes up to 85,000 also, but on an average is 36 to 75,000. 36,000 are colleges where, to be honest, you may not see on your college list. because these are very, very remote or slightly colleges that are more popular within the domestic US pool. For international students, it's going to be more so 50 to 75. I like to keep it that way. Then, of course, you have Canada, UK, Europe.
Sorry, Sheetal, I can't see anything on my screen. I don't
If
know.
there is any screen, we can't see it.
Oh, I'm sharing screen. Y'all can't see it?
No.
I can
Let
see.
me- One second, let me reshare.
It was visible.
Can you all see it now?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Okay, so I think must have frozen. Huh. So yeah, this is it in terms of cost of education. Okay. Another important data that I would like to share, like, on this same topic is that US has really witnessed a massive spike in the volume of applications.
Sorry to bother you. Can you go back to the earlier slide? I mean, given that it was frozen, we've just not seen it. Yeah,
Oh,
thank
sorry,
you.
sorry,
Give us 30 seconds on it.
So
Just
this
to
is,
absorb. Yeah.
yeah, this is the cost of education across the globe. US 36 to 75, but I would say realistically and practically speaking, when you actually craft that college list, it will be 50 to 75. I'll move forward.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So as I was saying that US has really witnessed a spike in the volume of applications over the last 2 years. And that has set the stage for the coming years. So it's important for you all to all know. And there are many factors that contribute, towards this. One being that, colleges went test optional. And the reason they went test optional is because obviously COVID hit and, testing centers were not open. When they went test optional, they saw the crazy volume that colleges started receiving, because obviously till now, testing was like a bar or a barometer or like a hurdle, right? So anybody who didn't want to do testing was saying like, okay, forget applying to the US. The minute testing was waived off, colleges started receiving applications in truckloads. So what happens when that volume goes high? That volume of rejection also goes high, because ultimately that class only has that much of a pool. But when volume of application goes high and volume of rejections also go high, what happens? Rankings go high. So this is a business strategy that, of course, colleges have. And I don't see colleges waving away, this testing requirement. Or I don't see colleges reverting back to that pre-pandemic time of getting the testing requirement. Yes, a couple of them have. Georgetown, MIT, Purdue, because they couldn't handle the volume of applications that, they had to browse through. So Georgia Tech, they all have received, they have all reinstated the SAT and the ACT requirement. But I see a bulk of colleges, a majority of the colleges will continue to remain. Many of them have announced that already 23, 24, they will continue to remain test optional. We'll have to again see next year onwards, where that policy kind of goes. But again, important to know the spike percentage, because as high school students, you all have to remember that, okay, you all have to ensure that you all are working towards really crafting sharp applications or profiles, because you're just competing within a larger pool now. And along the same lines, this is where Ivy Leagues have reached. I'm just going to try to minimize this or take it to the bottom. Ivy Leagues, again, I keep saying, is just getting more and more brutal, where now acceptances are fallen below 5%. They used to be in single digits. Now they're coming to lower single digits. And in fact, places like Princeton, Cornell, they even refuse to share or announce their data, because, they are kind of perceived negatively. So that's where IVs are going. And colleges besides Ivy have also started reaching single digit numbers, like you can see. Pre-pandemic, a college like Northeastern, Tufts, Colgate, Boston, they all had double-digit application or admit rates. They're all kind of shrinking to 7%, 9%. Again, it's only thanks to the volume of applications that they started receiving. Super. Another important point that I like to share is one major that is getting even more brutal is computer science. I don't know how many of you all on this call are computer science aspirants, but anybody looking at computer science has to be even more realistic that these numbers are shrinking like really scarily, and you'll have to keep other sort of options open and be creative. Computer science is a skill that can be applied across the bar, as I keep saying, but also look at optional subjects like data science, applied mathematics, physics, and start even crafting a profile parallelly on those lines, because computer science is getting very, very difficult. In fact, University of Washington, out of state, like their in-state, the state of Washington is where most of their seats are reserved. Out of state is 4%, but realistically, it's honestly 3%. So it's just lethal. So again, I don't know how many computer science aspirants, but have to work backwards and craft your profile in comp sci along with another, parallel subject. Okay, so that was everything that we kind of gave you an overview on what is the US like, what is the experience, public, private, cost of education, competitiveness, so on and so forth. Now there are different kinds of application rounds. I don't want to go too much into detail because I know that it can get a little overwhelming, but I'm just going to touch upon it that US offers you something known as certain binding application options and certain non-binding application options. Binding is called early decision. Non-binding is early action or regular or rolling. And the reason I just want to share this information, because of course, as families with the red pen, meaning, you all are under, the right hands and the right expertise. And, we are talking that application knowledge with you all the time. These terminologies or acronyms are important to be aware of. So that if, you have a friend or a family just saying that, I applied early decision to Harvard, you'll be like, okay, yeah, but Harvard doesn't have an early decision. Okay. So restrictive meaning application options are binding. You are applying to only one university. You can only apply to one university. It's a binding, it's a contract that you will be signing between you, your parents, and the school. If you're applying early decision and you get admitted in early decision, you have to revoke your applications from all other universities. The non-binding are what you see on the left: regular, rolling, and early action. I don't want to go into too much detail because it's just going to overwhelm you guys. Your mentors, your consultants can definitely help you dive deeper into this. Every college will be offering you at least one or two options. Either it's early action or regular decision, either it's rolling and regular, either it's REA, which is restrictive early action and regular. Most of them offer at least two kinds. Some may offer only one, which is just a regular. So just important to know these acronyms, that there's early action, which is not binding. There is early decision, which is binding. And there is a regular, which is just a regular. And there's something also known as rolling, if you just send that in rolling. But these are, and again, you can take a snapshot, but these are the various application options offered by the US. The timelines are mainly from November to December. November is generally, the first November is generally known as the whole early round. You hear back also early from the college. You hear back your decision by mid-December. And Jan 1st is generally the regular round. And you will hear back again by mid-Feb onwards. Yeah, should I go forward?
Actually, I have a question.
Yeah.
So does applying early decision give you an upper hand in the admission process? Like, are you more likely to get accepted if you apply early decision?
Great question. And I'm assuming this is someone who knows a little bit more about early decision. Yes. Early decision basically means that you're telling the college that I'm sure short coming to you. I'm committing myself to you that much. That's how much I love you. You are my priority over all other colleges. And that's why I'm applying it to you in binding. And from the college's perspective, they know this is a sure short business for me. This is a sure short yield for me. This student from Bombay is definitely coming. So I can already see my international pool. I have one sure short admission. So early decision, and we have data as consultants, we keep, we get data from colleges. So early decision bumps up your chances by 2x to 2.5x. Many colleges fill up 50% to 55% of their classes in their early rounds. But as a student, you have to really, really be sure that you want to go to that college, because there is no turning back. Your school will not allow you to go back on that contract, because your school also signs that, your school counselor will sign that contract. And if you break that contract, for example, again, using NYU, and if you're applying, say, from, Bombay International School, you hear back in December, then you decide, no, I don't want to go. Your school will not allow you to walk out of that, because that will reflect very poorly on BIS. Next year, NYU knows that last year, and they have all this in their data, that last year I offered a seat in ED and they broke it. That means the school counselor also was not ethical. This year, I'm not offering any ED admit offers to NYU. Make sense?
Right. Yeah, I got it.
Another
Thank you.
question, sorry. Does the early decision restriction applies to colleges outside US as well?
Fantastic question. Yes, early decision is binding across the globe. If you're then even offered a seat at Oxford or Cambridge as LSC, you cannot.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
I
have a question. Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. What is restrictive early action? I don't really understand that.
Okay, super. Restrictive early action, again, there are very few colleges that offer it. It's basically Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Notre Dame. Basically means you are applying and you can only apply to, in a binding college, you can only apply to that. So you can't apply ED to any private institutions.
Okay.
Clear? Not
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Sorry,
If you're
couldn't get
applying
that.
REA, you can't apply ED to any other college.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Mm.
Super.
So,
And
so when you
faster because we've got 10 minutes. Sorry, somebody had a question. Go for it.
no, I had a question on your on that same slide. So, so as I understand it, you can apply to as many colleges for the ED, but
No.
you accept only one, or you just apply to just the
You can
one
only
that you
apply
want.
to one. You only can apply
Oh,
ED to one. You can apply EA to as many. ED to one,
I
I'll tell you in
see.
very layman's language, just for you all to kind of remember. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. It may sound really, really cliche, but ED basically means I'm committing to one person to marry. You can't commit to 10 people to marry. You can date as many, but you will commit to one person if you have to enter into that marriage clause, right? You won't offer that marriage offer to many. So ED basically means that I'm ready to marry you, but I can still be dating 20 on the side. Okay. Very silly, very cliche, but just so easier to understand, because otherwise this gets very confusing. Okay,
Got it.
super.
Thank you.
I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Okay, I'm just going to move slightly faster. Sorry. Yeah, these are the broad application timelines. When we talk about, October to December, again, I think little too early on, so I don't want to dwell too much time on this. Financial aid and merit scholarships is something I would want to take 2 minutes on. When you as families are discussing and deciding where to park your money, sometimes family have these myths that, oh yeah, US, really, really very generous with scholarships. Let's remember that yes, US offers merit scholarships. US offers financial aid more compared to UK, Canada, India, Europe. But it's not like free fund that they are ready to distribute. Your profile has to warrant it. You've got to really be above the bar, and then they may say, as an international student, I'm willing to pump in some money into you, not otherwise. We can go way deeper into this, but I just wanted you to know that yes, when we talk about merit scholarships, US is most generous. Little bit of UK, then yes, Canada also has some options. India is offering some options. Europe and Asia, hardly anything. Again, financial aid where you have to demonstrate that, listen, I can't fund my student. Where you have to declare all your finances, your taxes, everything in your assets, from the number of holidays, siblings, how many members earning in the family. That's called financial aid. US offers it. UK does not recognize that, nor does Canada as such. India will. So if you are a student who really, really has that strong profile, and you show that my papers and it show that I really can't support, There are certain colleges in the US that will try to meet that financial need. Of course, it depends again on citizenship also. US citizenship, there are over 108 schools which will try to meet it, there are over 108 schools that will meet that full need, but your competitiveness as a applicant will not get impacted. At all other colleges, when you ask for aid, your competitiveness slightly will get impacted, because if I am an institution, I will see that, okay, this is the amount of fund or pool that I have. If there are two students with equally strong profiles, one can fund themselves, the other cannot. I only have that much of a pool of funds. I will say, you know what, this one's getting me business. Let me admit this one versus this one. And there are only 7 schools in the US that are need blind, meaning they don't care whether you can pay or not. If the admission office admits you and you do not have funds, the financial aid office will fulfill that gap. So Harvard, Yale, Princeton, MIT, Amherst, Dartmouth, Bowdoin, they are the only ones where also if you ask for need, if you show that you need the aid, it will not affect or impact your competitiveness. Again, this can be a little complex, can slightly go deeper later. Sorry, someone asked me something?
Yeah, quick question. So for an international student whose family have not been living in US, for several years now, let's say just before admission, do they also get considered for scholarship at the same level as a resident US citizen?
Is this student living outside the US? Is he an international citizen or a US citizen?
US citizen.
A US citizen will be considered, because of his citizenship, will be considered for that need blind consideration. But for the academic evaluation, when they're evaluating that actual application, because that student has completed high school outside the US, he will be evaluated as an international student with reference and in context of the school that he's applying from. But his citizenship will make him eligible at those 108 schools to qualify for need blind evaluation.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Super. Okay. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. I want to quickly go through 2 case studies just to give you all a more, sort of a concrete example of the profiles, so that everything that I've said does not sound just, vague. Now, we had a student last cycle admitted to University of Pennsylvania, which is a Ivy League institution, and was admitted to the Viper program, which is a very, very competitive interdisciplinary engineering research-oriented program at UPenn, and has only a 3% admit rate. So let's just understand what that profile looked like. So that student had a 42 on 45 in IB. He had an SAT score of 1530. He had demonstrated rigor in his core sciences, which is physics, chem, math in higher level. He had a string of, Olympiads, national and international, which demonstrated to college that, yes, this student, besides being academically strong within his school, he also has national and international academic potential, which was demonstrated through his Olympiads. Then he had shown co-curricular interest with regards to his love for energy, his love for, research and engineering. He was a student from a small town in Kanpur. He was a student at a boarding school, Doon School. What he did show that, when he was in high school, his family would take him to the village, and, like the way we would normally go to our native town or something during holidays. And he realized that, villages were not powered. They didn't have energy. And he wanted to understand how can he power those houses. So then gradually year on year, he did research on how can he power plastic bottles. He then powered he found a solution to powering plastic bottles and converted them into solar power bottles. He powered 20 homes in the village. When he was doing this project, he realized one hurdle or one hindrance, that when he was trying to integrate, plastic with energy and all of that, that integration of various resources or various materials was a problem. And he's realized that, this is what I want to study in college. I want to find solutions where integrating different sources of energy can be done seamlessly. That's what he did further research on. And that's where, he realized and he communicated to college, and the colleges, even a Viper could see that, yes, you want to come to my Viper program because you've worked on a project, you identified a problem, you want to find a solution, and you want to use that education to work towards that. Now, that is such a strong story and such a strong, unique, and a strong pitch for a student, which is not just, it shows colleges, right, that you've done things. And colleges are all about telling. It's all about show, don't tell. So this is co-curricular. When, I know the PCM mentors would be telling you that let's do things within your field of interest, because that's what you'll have to talk to colleges. And he had also extracurriculars where, he was head of his poetry club in his school. He was also leading some tech trainings. He had consistently participated in certain music and sport, because you want to see a little bit of the extracurriculars, because you want to show a little bit of breadth, but you also want to first focus on depth, which is related to your interest. And we keep seeing year on year that when you are able to showcase or have enough proof related to the field of your interest, that really helps you stand out, not only in your activity section and your profile, but also in your essays, because there's that much that you can talk to colleges about. And there was this other student who was going for economics. And again, this is case study B, where this student again showed his rigor through, HL, which is math, econ, and computer science, but he had done enough to show his depth in econ again. He was the founder of a stock market club in the school. So that, again, that is a co-curricular. He had taken part in a Young Entrepreneurs Academy, which shows entrepreneurship related to economics. He had taken part in certain competitions. Again, the Wharton competition, which showcases your depth in economics and math. For a student to stand out in economics, it's important to showcase that aptitude, proficiency, and skill in math. So he had taken math competitions. Colleges say that you show us your math skill. We don't care actually about econ. We will teach you economics when you come to school, but show that math depth. He had done an internship. So again, you can see that there were co-curriculars along with extracurriculars. And of course, he had a standardized test score of a 36. His overall academic strength was strong. He was admitted to NYU, Babson, and Northeastern. So that brings me at the hand sharp at 7 o'clock, at the right clock of the hour, brings me to the end of an overview of the US. I know we kind of wanted to touch on everything, so we may have gone a little fast. But the idea and the goal is that as Red Pen families, you all should be aware that where is that mentorship taking you? What is the end goal? Where are we working towards? And what is it that you as families also need to be working backwards on? So I hope that was helpful. I hope that was useful. Of course, we have the experts. We have Nanika, Shruti, Nitya, Jayashree, everybody on the call out here, Urvashi, who can delve deeper into all of this one-on-one. But also, if you have any questions for me, always happy to kind of answer you right away also.
I have a question. During 11th and 12th, when the student does a lot of projects, his projects should demonstrate his ability towards his core subjects. That is the domain in which he should do his projects, or his interest, because those things can be very, very different. A person might have maths, physics, chemistry as his subjects, but his interest might be football. So where does he balance?
And
Nanika, you want to take that?
Yeah. So I'll just jump in here. But Shirish, what we can do is it can either be two separate projects where you do one project related to STEM and you do one separate project related to football, which can be kind of intertwined with the community service or something like that. Or there are ways in which a lot of times we're able to kind of intertwine interests along with, subject area. So maybe something in the case of, an example, keeping in mind your situation right now, would be creating, for example, an app or something like that, a website, right? Where you kind of plan, say, football tournaments, you do something, where you kind of connect different students, or you kind of, share tips, or, some sort of international content as well that can be kind of organized. So there are ways in which we can combine interests as well if it works out in some cases.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Shirish, we had a student this year whose interest was econ and her passion was Odyssey, dancer. And she integrated both of them beautifully, and she is admitted to one of the top-notch colleges. So you show that academic depth within that subject also, and you also showcase your passion. That's fine.
Yeah, I think you're right. Creating a project which is a blend of both the worlds. I think that is going to be a unique project.
Yeah. That typically ends up having a nice, unique storyline. It's related to the student's interests as well as shows your interest in the subject area for which you're applying. So it works out. It's something that admissions officers really value in the application.
Good.
I'm going to show you all one last video as I promised by students, because that is really going to interest the students out here, because this is advice from our past students. Oops. And one second, let me stop sharing. Let me reshare just to make sure that I'm sharing my audio. Yeah.
First and foremost, always start early, because those essays are really going to take much more time than you think. And secondly, don't look at the rankings of the schools, because many people tend to get carried away with those and they only want to apply to schools in the top 20 or top 10. And finally, definitely visit the campuses that you are considering applying to, because visiting Berkeley did make a big influence on my decision to choose it over UCLA and other schools.
Interested in any STEM course, I would highly recommend that you look up Intel ISF, RSI, the MIT Summer Camp, Google Science Fair, and Regeneron STS. These are things that you can definitely do well in and come here to Stanford.
I think a lot of applicants forget to balance their extracurriculars with their studies because they're so focused on achieving good grades. But my only advice is to keep in mind that a lot of importance is given to those extracurriculars, and it plays like an equally important role, so don't neglect that.
Take every single piece of advice that your consultants give you and properly act on it.
I think one of my biggest advice to future applicants would be just like apply to a place that makes you happy, and it's never about the name. I feel it's all about what you do with it, because you could be in a college that's has an amazing name, but if you just literally didn't do anything when you went there, didn't make use of your resources, it doesn't mean anything. But if you go to a place where you're really passionate about and you feel like you can make a change and leave your mark on that campus, I think that's one of the most important things.
So I guess my only piece of advice would be is just be authentic with who you are, because at the end of the day, colleges are trying to fill their classes with people, not statistics. And the more you can communicate who you are as a person and your voice, the more that they will be endeared to you. Some of the best places to do that is your essay and your recommendation.
There's a ton of advice I'd love to give future candidates and applicants. But if there's one thing I could tell you is, if you're right now sitting in your house and preparing for admissions and you're 2-3 years down the line to apply, don't try and cheat the system. If you try and cheat the system, you might be successful and you might make it to Harvard, but at the end of the day, you're just cheating yourself. Because what's the system's point? The system's point is to make you transform on a personal and academic level.
Start everything early, get a calendar, be super organized, practice time management, because when you're in college, you're by yourself and you really need to do stuff by yourself. And when you practice it early, it's really beneficial to you.
Super. So that brings us to the end, and every student honestly has the same advice that start early, be authentic, identify your interests, and show depth. So I hope this was really, really helpful, irrespective of wherever you're applying to. This will help you. So
Hi,
with
can
that,
I ask a question? Can I ask a quick question, please?
sure.
We have concentrated so much on the colleges in the West. It almost feels as parents, it's so overwhelming. It almost feels that if a child doesn't go to any university in the West or outside of the country, yeah, I mean, the child almost, I mean, we are all under a lot of pressure. It's almost like you're preparing your child for a comeback. I wanted to know, what are the good choices in India?
Of course, and we are, sorry, I didn't get your name.
I am Chaya Modi here.
Chaya Modi. Hi, Chaya. I think we've spoken also earlier. So Chaya, basically, we are doing a series, on every country. Today is US. Tomorrow, I believe there's a whole schedule in place. We're doing one on India as well. The goal of today's session is not to, just promote the West. Idea was that today all the families should understand what does US entail. Tomorrow there is UK, day after Canada, India. But to answer your question, India also has some great options and opportunities, and liberal arts is really booming. The wind is really shifting within the country. Ashoka, Kriya, Flame, Symbiosis, Ahmedabad University, Shivnadar, Plaksha. These are the top-notch liberal arts colleges in the country. And it makes a lot of sense even to work towards aspiring at being at one of these, because these are also getting very competitive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That makes me feel very much better.
Yeah, today's was only to help everybody know
Yeah.
about the US. Go ahead,
Correct.
Danica.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sheetal. There are series throughout the week that all of you have received the invite for. So as Sheetal mentioned, tomorrow is UK, Wednesday is Canada, Thursday is Europe, and Friday is Indian liberal arts options. So we'll be taking you through all the different countries. So please join, depending on the countries you're potentially interested in, or if you want to know more about each of these different countries before you finally fixate on which ones are the, perfect fit for your child. So we'll see you tomorrow, and thank you so much, Sheetal. Thank you everyone for
Thank you.
joining.
It was lovely meeting everybody, and hope this was helpful.
Thank
So,
you.
Have a lovely week ahead. Bye.
Thank you, Sheetal. This was very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. This was very enlightening.
I had a question. Could I ask you? I guess Sheetal ma'am left.
Yeah, Arnav, let's take it offline.
Okay.